Um, Man, I want to talk about like expectations, bro. And kind of the expectations we use to prevent ourselves. I say expectations, are really excuses, right? But like, um, what I've seen a lot, and it's the holiday season, and I know there's a lot of people who are using like avoidance as a tactic to not step into recovery, or using any excuse to not walk into it, right? And one of those is like that expectation that I'll get sober if somebody else goes and gets sober with me.
Sure.
you know I think that's like a big fear response, right? Because nobody really wants to step into recovery alone. It's kind of it's a scary leap, right? Because you don't know what you're gonna have to do. You know you're gonna have to expose yourself in a lot of freaking ways. And yeah, so that's kind of the direction I would like to go today. You know, it is the holidays. Nobody should be you know spending Christmas by themselves. I spent about 10 years of Christmases wallowing in self pity and hate and shame. Um, in a hotel room doing lots of drugs, and I know what that does to the mentality. The isolation, the loneliness. And the loneliness doesn't really stop when you come into recovery, and actually, it kind of grows a little bit. But that's kind of what recovery is supposed to be about, right? It's building that intimate relationship with yourself, with your spiritual being, whatever that may be. Um, learning your behaviors, thoughts. So it's a time to be intimate with yourself, which is very lonely, right? You're going to spend a lot of time by yourself in recovery, but don't let that be your excuse to not do it. Um, I often tell people, man, when you come into recovery, you're going to come in at your very weakest point in life, and you're not going to know what direction to go, what to do, or how to even start accomplishing anything, right? You're going to have to take a leap of faith. You're going to have to put a lot of faith in yourself, and you're going to come in at the weakest point. But once you start advancing through recovery and using recovery tools, using recovery concepts throughout your life, you will become a stronger person at the end of the day, right? I've been in recovery now for a little over 4 years, and it's been a growing process, right? I've had my slips, I've had my falls, I've had the days where I didn't want to do nothing, but if you just stick with it, man, it's a great experience to get to learn what you're really about. You know, some people say leopards can't change their spots. You know, and I think if you think like that, then you're absolutely right. If that's your mentality, then you're absolutely right. But if your mindset shifts to growth, then you absolutely can change. You absolutely can turn everything around. And it's a learning experience, and that's how you have to take recovery. Is every day is a learning experience. One thing we have to learn, we have to kind of get used to, is from the day we're born till the day we die. Every single day, we're going to learn something, whether it's something good or whether it's something bad. Like, that's the one thing that's a guarantee every day.
Besides death and taxes.
Besides death in Texas, But you know what I mean, though. Like, that's what we get to do. You either learn something that's of benefit, or you learn how to not be of benefit.
Well, so in a lot of military terms, or just in business terms, you're either an asset or you're a liability.
True.
And your choices of educating yourself every day makes you an asset.
Right.
And a lot of people, when they're in the throes of addiction or in the throes of despair, depression, they don't see that daily win.
Yeah. There's no self gratification.
Right. And
Like, like in addiction, you're real big on those instant wins, right? It's that I want to catch a win, but I really don't want to do a whole lot for it, right? But I want it all. I want the bag. But I'm not really willing to put the work in, or really even thought about what it's going to take to get that bag,
right.
right? So, but when you come into it, the bag comes much slower. It's not like in the streets. In the streets, the bag comes pretty quick. You know what I'm saying? Because I can go out there and you can do something real crooked and get a bag real fast. You know what I'm saying? And when you're living legit, you got to work for it. It takes time. You put in a lot of effort into it. So the bag comes slower, but the bag bears more fruit. It's a heavier bag, right? There's more to it. I worked for it. I earned it. I got it. I appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't appreciate anything I got in addiction. Nothing. People gave me things. I was, doing all kinds of crooked stuff in the street. I never appreciated none of it. I'd make money. I'd spend it the same day. Whether it was a couple $100s, whether it was a couple $1,000s, whether it was $10,000, it was gone. By midnight, it was gone. And the next day, I just repeated the cycle. I had no respect for money. I had no respect for tangible things. And I really didn't have any respect for people. So those like when I came into recovery, I said, you know what, those are things I'm going to change. I'm going to start living with respect for myself, for others, for God, right? I practice an unconditional model, which is not an easy model to practice because that means I got to treat myself right, I got to treat other people right, and I got to treat God right.
So, do you think that people in addiction have limiting beliefs around love? I mean, obviously they do. Um, we've talked about it before, but can you give me an example of where someone has a limiting belief in addiction that they're not worthy of love?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
I
like just
had,
give me one example
um,
of the many things that can make you feel that way.
you know, in addiction, bro, you're looking for a connection, you just can't find it, right? You're looking for something to bond to, and oftentimes, families, friends, they don't want to connect with that, right? They don't want to connect with that negative energy, so we connect with the drug, right? And that just kind of perpetuates a cycle of sickness that within the addict
Well,
itself.
and it perpetuates that I'm alone, I'm not
I'm not
worthy.
worthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you develop this self hate, which during Christmas time when I was in the street, bro, I hated myself. There was not one year where I went and hung out with my friends. Like I literally get a hotel room by myself and get trashed because I was just wallowing in that self hate, And then once you start getting in trouble, right, with the law and some other things, family starts turning their back, or somebody really close to you, decides that they hate you or they don't want you around no more, and they say some really awful things. That all that undeserving bitterness starts to sink in, and so you just kind of you accept it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like it just falls into this self acceptance that I'm trash. I'm going to be trash, and then people don't change because of that undeserving feeling or that unwanting feeling, or that they've bonded to whatever they found in the streets that gives them that quick sense of relief. I got a lot of friends that were in the prostitution gang, and they'd run around and do their thing, right? And they were good girls. They were just that's what they did. That was what they connected to. That's what they found their little sense of relief from all the trash around them. You know what I mean? But they were good people. They put me up in times. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it wasn't like I was out just banging all of them either. You know what I mean? Like we were legit friends. We'd hang out. You know what I mean? I come through every now and then. We just chill, and they were good people. But that's what they had found is their sense of relief
Sure.
to get away from all the chaos in the mind. You know what I mean?
So, what's an actionable step that someone can try or do that will give them like an immediate satisfaction or a win that they can realize that they can gain control back? Is it just something simple?
Man, really, I again like my the first thing I grasped when I came into recovery was service. And that's the to me that's the easiest way to rack up wins, and it's the most fulfilling way to rack up wins, right? Doing something for somebody else, whether it's just lending an ear or, helping an old lady across the street, showing up to an AA meeting and participating, doing nice things for people, that was the quickest way for me to start developing a sense of gratitude and a sense of purpose.
Okay, so in theory, or essence, what you're saying is, if we're looking at life outside, say we're in a house, we're looking outside, and the glass is cracked,
Mhm.
we can replace that glass by going and serving other people.
Absolutely.
We step outside of ourselves to do something for someone else,
Mhm.
get away from that selfish, self-destructive behavior, and you can bring
Yeah.
a comfort through
Well, I mean,
service.
like if you think about it, right, like addiction is all about like selfishness and self-centeredness, right? It's all about me. So the only logic, like it makes sense, right? The logic says like, if I'm the problem, then maybe I got to get outside myself, help other people, and that could be my solution. And that's what I found to be the biggest solution in my recovery, better than any program that I went through. And I worked a few, like 4 or 5 different ones. Um, but service still holds true to being the foundation of my entire recovery and like the most important aspect of it. Because even if I'm feeling down, if I'm feeling out of whack, you know what I'm saying? Like service work always reconnects me. Always, every time. So I'm very grateful for it.
So, what is another avenue that someone in addiction can use besides service that will help them stop making excuses and
A lot of
face their triggers?
lately I've seen a lot of people like don't want to step into recovery because like they're scared of that fear of change, um, not knowing what's going to happen, right? And so they put these excuses in place to not even try it, or they like again, you want that instant gratification to where it's like, okay, oh, I'm gonna go try this out for maybe a week, but if I don't get nothing out of it, that week's gonna be the only week I do it. So, you got to understand like recovery is not something you're gonna grasp in a day. It's not something you're even gonna come close to understanding in a week or a month or 6 months, right? It's something you have to stay into, right? It keeps you in tune with yourself, with the landscape of life changes, the landscape of your recovery changes, so it'll always be forever changing.
Right, and it's giving up those temporary moments of comfort for the long-term recovery.
Right, and not falling complacent.
Right.
Right, it keeps you moving. Right, complacency. When complacency sets in, man, like that, it's when everything kind of gets out of whack real fast. When we get too comfortable, right? So the idea is to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
So there's the 5-minute rule. Have you ever heard of that?
Never heard of the 5 minute rule.
So when an excuse pops up to avoid an action necessary for recovery or getting yourself out of depression or overcoming an argument, this really does work. It's a proven kind of technique. But if you're afraid to do something or you're procrastinating doing something, give yourself 5 minutes to micro focus on that particular issue. So like force yourself for 5 minutes, set a physical timer, and for 5 minutes I'm doing nothing but that. So a lot of workout and people in that world, in the athletic world,
Right.
will use a cold plunge, for example. If your mind ain't right, the best place to get right is in that cold water for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And because your body reacts, it sends you into that hyper state. But when you're out of that in 5 minutes, it can literally reset your sympathetic nervous system. A lot of times you can do that, accomplish that by, if you're feeling anxious, put your face in a bowl of cold water.
I clean my house.
Right. So you spend 5 minutes doing something else, micro focusing on a
Right.
task.
Yeah. Taking off on something else.
The problem with that, though, is I'm wondering if in the throes of addiction, can you even give yourself 5 minutes sometimes?
You got to make yourself do it. Right?
Which is what the rule's about.
You legitimately have to make yourself do it. Like, and it's one of those things like, there's a lot of things I know in my life that'll benefit me, but will I take action to do it?
Yeah.
Any type of action to move forward. Right? So, there's even times where I'm reading books and I'm like, I'll read 1 or 2 pages and I'm like, you know what? No, not today. But like, then I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, nah, I need to stay in a book because my head's not in the right place.
Well, but that's where mentally visualization and mentally.
So you do all the things you don't want to do.
Right. But you're mentally disciplining yourself too. So like
Yeah.
the type of books you read, the type of content you consume will actually trigger something in your head where you want to go do those other things. So
Right.
if you're reading books about recovery or engaging in conversations, this is why your support group matters.
Absolutely.
If your support group, you're feeling that anxiety and that trigger, your support group, and so you've got service, you've got your group of people, and you've got action. You have to take action. It requires action to get better.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the 12-step programs have worked so well for so many people for so long. But now that the world has changed, that program's never adapted to like the way the world is now.
It's a great program. It provides
It's a great basis.
whether you do the 12 steps or not, you can walk into a 12-step recovery meeting and it's always a place to do intimate reflection.
Right. It's a
Right.
framework that is solid. It's a solid, proven framework.
Yeah, and
for
it's
recovery.
good. Like it works for the people that it works for. So I absolutely say it's necessary. Right? Just like I say, like Andy Frisella, for example, his outlook on life, the way he approaches his coaching, it's necessary because it attaches, it hits somebody somewhere it connects with, right?
Personal excellence is the greatest
So
rebellion.
all these different layouts, right? All these different looks, they're all necessary, right? So when I developed my recovery program, I wasn't trying to make something like groundbreaking. Oh my God, this is new. This is, you know what I mean? This is going to top everybody else. No, I wanted to create another look, right? Because I don't like the 1 out of 10. The 1 out of 10 is not something for me to be, it's not acceptable for me. I want to be of benefit to my community. So the only way I can do that is by trying to reach those who I can. And so, you know, I want those numbers to go up. So I created another look. It's just another look for people to look at. And so, and it does really well. I'm pleased with it, you know. And it's been eye opening. The whole journey's been eye opening. But I still go to 12-step meetings, probably 3, 4, 5 a week, if I can, you know. And it's
because it's a tool in the tool chest.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So if you were going to have somebody start, say, a journal to conquer their excuse making, what would be a couple tools that you would have them write down that they can use when they're in that excuse making mode?
So for me, man, I'm not much of a journaler, right? I like to vlog, of course, you know.
Right.
I'm a vlogger.
Well, in either way, but I mean, that is still a journal of some kind,
I
right?
think the vlogging kind of, for me, it worked better, right? Because I did like this, I don't know, it was like 9-month experiment I did on Facebook, where just every day I got on Facebook and I just dumped out a whole bunch, right? For everybody, just dumped it out there. And what I was noticing, because I'm like my worst critic, right? You know, so I would spit everything out there on Facebook and then I'd watch it. And I kind of, in a sense, became my own sponsor and my own mentor because when I spit it, it was all emotionally charged.
Right.
I didn't have the answers in my head. It was just, I'm just throwing out whatever I'm throwing out. But when I watched it, my mind perceived it differently, right? It wasn't emotionally charged. Now I was looking at it objectively.
Right.
So it was a very big self-empowerment tool for me to realize that I did have a lot of my own answers if I could just separate the emotion
Correct.
from the situation.
Well, and that's actually a very valid technique that's used in a lot of businesses too.
Yeah.
So like
it worked out really well.
speakers, if you're a speaker or want to become a speaker, that is a great tool to learn how to improve your communication, improve how you sound, how you appear to the world.
Oh yeah.
But it really does exactly what you just said. It separates that emotion of the moment and allows you to objectively look at things. And that's why objective truth is real truth. It is not what somebody feels or emotions. It is the actual facts of an issue. So this takes me to my next question, though. If a lot of the common excuses for people, whether they're in addiction or depression or whatever, this is a common thing across the world, right? Not just in addiction. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not creative enough. They have all these limiting beliefs of who they are. And then they also just say, well, that's just the way I am. And they expect other people to adapt to them. How do they overcome those What tools can they use to overcome those two things of I'm not good enough or that's just the way I am?
Yeah. At some point, you have to ask yourself, what are you going to do about it? You know, if I'm not good enough, then what makes me good enough, right? What, and if that's what you're dealing with, if you want to be seen, right? If you want people to see you, then you have to put yourself out there. But you not just put yourself out there with your trash, right? You have to put yourself out there in a way that people are going to respond to what you're putting out in the world, right? When I was in addiction, I stayed away from most of my family for a very long time. Me and my dad could not mesh at all, right? And I wanted to be seen. I fought with self acceptance from my parents for a very long time. And I was living with my aunt. Oh, it's probably like 7, 8 years ago. But I was living with my aunt, and I was kind of pouring myself out to her about this acceptance thing. I wanted my dad to accept me. And let me tell you something. My aunt smacked me so hard, and it was out of left field, but she hit me hard. And I was like, "What the hell?" And she said, "When you gonna start? When you gonna stop chasing acceptance from your parents? You know, you're seeking acceptance, but you're not putting anything positive into the world, right? So you have to start putting positive things into the world. People want to see progress. People want to see growth. You know, nobody wants to hear about my life in prison or my life shooting up heroin. You know what I mean? And I know that. And those are still very awkward times for me when I get around family and friends and things like that. Like, I know those are conversations I don't need to be talking about. There's not conversations that, but it's my life, right? I had to start doing positive things. So now I get to go and I get to talk about my book. I get to go and I get to talk about college. I get to go and talk about, starting a business and kind of starting to implement myself, right? Putting myself in the room. I can't expect nobody else to put me in the room. I have to put in the work and then I have to put myself in the room.
So one of the great things about personal development, which is what being in addiction recovery is about, right? You have to personally develop yourself.
Yeah.
When we face those limiting beliefs and we face those excuses and do the work, it's hard work.
It is. It's hard work.
Realizing that you are the asshole, and
there's
pardon
no
my
shortcuts.
language, there is no shortcut.
And there's no instant gratification.
You went exactly where I was taking you.
Like, there's no instant gratification. But when you do get that gratification, those wins are big wins. It's a different, when you work for it, my dad used to tell me this all the time when I was a kid. He said, I'm not buying you a car because when you buy your own car, you're going to appreciate it a lot more. And, I'll sit there and I think about like, dad's a real asshole for that. But as I got older, I was like, he's right. Because when people would give me stuff, I always took advantage of it. Never took care of it. You know what I mean? Like, it was always something I clucked off or broke and was like, oh, well, but.
It's that toy at Christmas that you got.
Yeah, but the wins I get now, the things I get now, I take care of those things. It's different. There's a bond to what I have today, right? I've learned how to respect my money. I learned how to respect my property, and then you get married, bro, and then you got to learn how to respect your wife and take care of her and appreciate her, so that's a whole new avenue that I'm learning.
Well, but since you brought up your wife, I want to make sure we're clear. Like, excuses of dependency, like I can't do something because my wife isn't doing it, right?
Right.
So I'm gonna use the weight loss thing as an example because you if say you wanted to lose weight, you still have to do the work to do that. Sammy can't do that for you.
Right.
I can't do that for you. But that is another excuse that we have to make sure we don't let creep into our lives is I can't accomplish this goal because I was over here, this person wasn't ready and I needed to help them.
No, bro, you should absolutely never make your recovery contingent upon somebody else.
There's no dependency. There are no shortcuts.
None. Well, because here's the thing. Your goals are different than my goals.
Correct.
Your expectations are different. We are built uniquely, right? And there's no guarantees. If I go into recovery, so say I get somebody on the street, and I've tried this, man, for many years. I'm like, all right, me and my homeboy, we're going to go in together, da-da-da-da. And as soon as he backs out, I'm like, well, shit, I ain't going.
Yeah, I'm out.
I'm out. You know what I mean? Or homegirl, like, we're going to go do this. And then as soon as somebody backs out or something, that jump ship mentality sets in. Nope, I ain't doing it.
Well, there's a difference between.
And then there's times when, like, meetings, man. And like, this is something that really gets me, man, is relationships, right? If you have found somebody in your recovery who fully 100% supports your recovery, then I absolutely agree that you should build on that, right? But if you're in a relationship where your old lady or your dude trips on you every time you show up to a meeting because he don't think you're at a meeting, or shows up and sitting outside waiting for you to see if you come out, like, that's not healthy.
No.
That ain't cool.
No.
You know what I mean? And you need to recognize that, right? Because, I'm not going to say put recovery first in all things, because, of course, we all have our obligations in life, right? You have school. Some people have school. Some people have jobs, kids, things like that they really need to. But it's got to be really high up there. It's got to be something that's present in your life. And if you're not in a healthy space where you can grow as a person because of somebody else, then you got to let that relationship go. And that's just kind of where it needs to be, because you're going to learn a lot about yourself. You're going to change as a human being. And if that person's not willing to accept that change or change with you, you know what I'm saying, then you're going to find yourself split apart anyway.
Right. And that's not even just the addiction world. That's in every aspect of your life. If you're not supported.
Absolutely.
But there's a difference between not feeling supported and not having any effort of your own. Like, relationships are a two-way street.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's why knowing that there is something higher and bigger and better than you is helpful in recovery as well, because then you feel empowered to know I'm not alone, even though I feel alone.
Yeah.
Right. So those relationship gaps are that's a whole topic of all of its own.
Well, but you do what's necessary, right? Like when me and my wife got married, there was this understanding that I wasn't such a good, honest, faithful person back in my day, right? So it made her very nervous for me to go out and do things, right? But it's about honoring your word. You go exactly where you say you're going.
Yep.
Babe, I'm going to a meeting. This is where I'm going to be. And if it goes any farther than that, then you do what you don't want to do, right? You put yourself on the Life 360 or the family travel chat. You know what I mean? Like, you do those things. If it matters to you, then you do those things. You don't fight the system. You don't buck the system. You start doing things that show people that you're an honorable person.
Right. Yeah. Again, you do the work.
You do the work.
There's no
You
shortcuts.
know what I mean? You satisfy that need in somebody. Satisfy that crazy thought that maybe you are out cheating or maybe you are out drinking. Nope, I'm exactly where I said I'm going to be. I'm at a meeting. Or I'm at work.
So, summarize for me the three biggest excuses you see as we wrap this show up today.
Biggest three excuses is
Go ahead.
The undeservingness, right? That people feel like they don't deserve happiness or can't achieve happiness. Is kind of like a huge myth, in my opinion, and I used to think that way. Like, this is my life. This is the way it's going to be forever. But once you step in there into the realm, if you take it seriously and you work it diligently, your life can change very quickly. Mine did extremely fast. Second one would be, again, don't make your recovery contingent upon any other person. It is about you. It is an intimate reflection of you, and it's for you. You work your own program. You're not working other people's programs. You don't have to work at AA 12 steps or any type of program. It is your program the way you need to work it. So that's another one. And three, man, is don't expectations in recovery can become toxic, right? If I'm going to do recovery because of somebody else or something, or to satisfy the court or the probation department, parole department, or the job or whatever it is, do not make your recovery contingent upon that, right? Again, it is about you. It is all about you. It needs to be for you. And you have to come to a realization that if you're not good, then you can't be good for nobody else. you can't learn to love yourself, then you will have this flawed perspective on how to love others. And you'll find yourself falling into the same pitfalls, the same, you know, habits. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
and so it's very important. And if you're in treatment, I want to say this too. If you're in treatment, man, like use that time as preparation. Yes, you are in treatment. Yes, you're going to learn life skills. Yes, you're going to talk a lot about your drug habit, right? But and this is something I don't think that's talked about enough. Treatment should be preparation. It should be constant preparation. You know, that those self-reflecting moments that goes, how did life fall apart on me before? And putting things in place to prepare yourself for when you leave. Because so many of us fall out when we come out of treatment day one. I did it. You know what I mean? Like 14 months of treatment, day one, bam, right back to it. Because I didn't, I prepped my mind, but I didn't prep for life after treatment.
Right.
Right. I thought I was solid through and through, but I didn't have, the backup, cash that I needed in case something went wrong, like my car broke down. I didn't have the money to fix it. So then I wasn't able to get to school. So, you know what I mean? And everything just starts to domino effect on you. So keep those things in mind. Like, you know what I mean? Like, make sure everything that when you leave treatment, man, everything that you own should be yours. And I tell this to people a lot who move in with roommates or get into these relationships and move in with people, right? And again, that's making your recovery contingent upon other people, right? If I'm moving into somebody else's house, that means I'm there on their good grace. And if I'm there on their good grace, at some point, that's going to end, right? And you're going to find yourself again right back into the same situation, back on the street, talking about, oh, that SOB kicked me out the house. And so now I ain't got nothing. So,
Well, then you go back into that cycle of I'm
yeah,
not taking responsibility for
yeah.
my
And
actions.
it's that self hate thing, just, that undeserving nature thing, just it repeats the cycle, man. Don't make your recovery contingent upon other people. Get out there and make your own way. I said this the other day in a meeting. People kind of looked at me and said, you got three choices in life. You can either make a wave, ride a wave, or sink. Right? That means I can ride somebody else's wave. I can go work a normal job, be content with, whatever in life. Me, I had to go make a wave. And that's just the nature of me. Like I got to ride my own wave, and so but I had to do that. I had to put the work in to do that. Or you sink. You just say, okay, well, I'm not gonna do nothing, then I'm gonna fall apart. Right. So you make a wave, ride a wave, or sink. And those are your three options when it comes to recovery. And that's really how I feel about it. You either discipline yourself to really take off with it, and this understanding that I might not learn something every day, or I might not learn something every time I meet my coach or my therapist or my AA sponsor, right? And there's oftentimes you won't. There's oftentimes you're gonna go have this conversation with somebody and be like, "They didn't tell me nothing today." And maybe that was the whole point of the conversation. Maybe it was just to have a conversation. That social interaction. It's an ever changing thing, and you're gonna get out of it exactly what you put into it.
Absolutely.
And that's just the truth of it. If you're gonna half-ass it, you're done. But if you work through it, you're gonna do good. That's all we got today, guys. I think we're about done today.